Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
What's going on, Jared?
Not much. And then we have Tim Crockett. How you doing?
Doing well.
And Tim has been on the Betterhumanology podcast. So if you want to go back a while, way back. Really good episode. Really glad that we connected, but it's cool to be connecting with you on the Garage Gym Athlete side of things, just because your accomplishments and everything else, and you actually being, in more of the Garage Gym Athlete style training. I know we'll uncover some of that. I think this would be a fun episode. But let me throw it to you here at the start, basic introduction. What do you do? How do you train? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
So I've been transplanted here from the UK. I grew up in the UK, went to school in the UK, and then served in the British military for about 12 years. Left in March 2001, and then within 6 months, sort of found myself in the US, initially on a short-term assignment, then met my wife, and have kind of pretty much been here ever since.
That's awesome.
What I do today, I would say I'm still in the business of keeping people safe. Always been in safety, security, travel safety, and currently I'm kind of helping a large production here in Las Vegas on keeping people safe in the COVID sense.
That's really cool. Yeah, I know you have a pretty awesome job and background. So what has been your setup? We mentioned kind of before we started recording, you're not in your normal setup. So what has training been, or your garage gym setup? So whatever it is.
Yeah, so I would say I've been what we call now a garage athlete since I was a teenager. I've always had some sort of weight setup in my parents' garage that I've worked with to supplement, whether that was playing rugby, getting ready for the military, and just maintaining a level of fitness whenever I was home on leave or visiting my parents. And it's quite funny that I have only just sold that bench and barbell that I've had for the past 30 plus years. In the last 6 months, when I sort of finally cleared out some space in the garage and basement to make room for some new toys in my current setup, which is obviously not with me here in this hotel room in Las Vegas. But I did send you a couple of pictures. I'm not sure if you'd be able to put up on the website after. But I've got a fairly compact gym set up in the basement. I've got a treadmill, I've got a rowing machine, and just before coming away on this trip, I got an assault bike, I've got a rack, and then an assortment of dumbbells and kettlebells and sandbags and a punching bag and everything else that sort of helps keep me motivated and busy.
Yeah, and it sounds like a big part of the reason you had a garage gym was to supplement whatever you're trying to achieve lifestyle-wise, training-wise, or whatever. Was that a big driver?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it. When I was getting ready to row the Atlantic, I did join a CrossFit style gym more to learn proper technique when it came to Olympic lifts. Olympic lifts were a big part of kind of my baseline training in injury proofing my body to do that. I soon got bored of that. The programming wasn't giving me what I needed. And when I transitioned from that, I had the setup at home. I joined Garage Gym Athlete and have transitioned from kind of the shred program into now the no gear program while I'm here, and can't wait to get back and switched back to a program that will let me use the rig and barbell and everything else accordingly.
I hear that. Sure.
Yeah, Joe's been in the same spot.
I never thought I would miss it as much as I have here. It's been tough.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into that, your one-man journey across the Atlantic. Just let people in, for people who've not heard that episode or they're unaware. What was it exactly that you were trying to achieve? Why were you doing it? And ultimately, what did you do?
So it all started with reconnecting with an old military buddy of mine that I'd served in the Marines with, and we'd both been on the boxing squad together. We reconnected over social media, but then 6 weeks later, I found out that he took his own life and had been suffering pretty badly from post-traumatic stress. That kind of sparked something inside me to do something more than just give some money to a charity or run a 5K or something of that nature. And I didn't know quite what I wanted to do at the time. And I would say it was probably about another 6 weeks after that I disappeared down that Google rabbit hole one afternoon and came across ocean rowing. And I thought, given my background and what I wanted to do, it was the right challenge. Initially, I thought I was going to do it as a pair, so two people in one boat. When I couldn't find anyone that was interested enough to do it with me, I quickly switched to do it solo. And then about 18 months of preparation, mainly getting the boat together, preparing one's body to do that, and then everything else in terms of safety. I departed from a small island in the Canary Islands called La Gomera, and started my row across to Antigua 63 days later, after crossing 3,000 nautical miles of the Atlantic.
Intense.
It's just so crazy. My question always goes to like what the time was like in the boat. Like what did you? Obviously, there was rowing, but like what did you do? Like what? How did you keep from going insane for 2 months?
It's interesting, and that's why. So while I've been here, I've been listening to. The only thing I listen to when I do train is the Garage Gym podcasts and everything else. And it's interesting to sort of listen to other people's hardest workout or their mental toughness. And as you know, given my background, I thought I tested myself in all of those areas before rowing the Atlantic. And I thought I was pretty well equipped, not only to deal with the loneliness and the rigors of rowing 12, 15 hours a day. But you can never really prepare for the mental aspect. And you have to sort of, as a solo rower, you do things much more tactically. When you're a pair or you're a part of a team, you have to deal with that 2 hours on, 2 hours off routine. And it is fairly monotonous, and that in itself can be tough. But as a solo, if the weather's good and you want to make best use of that weather, if it's kind of pushing you in the right direction, you just go with it. So on occasions, I may row 7 hours nonstop, other than to grab something to eat and stretch one's legs. And then there are other times where the weather's not in your favor, and you then have to be a bit more disciplined in like row for 3 hours, rest an hour. Otherwise, you just wear yourself out. And there are occasions where I forgot to do that, and I would be big tough frog man, we can push through this, and it catches up, and you then have to spend a longer period of time in recovery. So we would go through phases. Day one, pumped up on adrenaline, row solid 7 hours and felt like it went by in an hour. But then when you're sort of 1,000 miles in, you're suffering from sleep deprivation, just general wear and tear, you're exhausted, the heat. It takes a different kind of approach just to keep going. And it is, I would say, of all of those 63 days, other than the last 2 miles coming into Antigua, from a physical standpoint, it was 80% mental. And it's just the discipline in dealing with the conditions and just knowing that you just got to keep moving forward.
That's so crazy. I was been reading the book Endurance about Shackleton's Shackleton's journey, which is crazy because it's not just one thing. There's a lot of things that happen. But some of their shots to islands and stuff, I was thinking about you during that. I was like, yeah, that's some rough stuff, and it's just crazy to put that in perspective. I think it's a huge, huge accomplishment. Do you have any goals that you're after right now?
A couple. I thought I would have got the ocean rowing bug out of my system after 63 days. And it took a good 3 months for my body to recover. And in that time, I felt that I hadn't quite scratched that itch. And to keep the charitable side and the cause, the campaigns that I was looking to raise funds and awareness for veterans' mental health, I've been considering setting up my own race or challenge on the East Coast of the US as a inter-service challenge to help kind of keep that charitable stuff going. But in the last sort of 6-8 months, I've been approached by another team, and I'm actually now part of a team that's looking to row the Northwest Passage, which is about 2,000, nearly 3,000 nautical miles. But again, going across the northern end of the continent. So we're in planning for that at the moment and looking to raise support so we can get that off, which is one of the first last challenges that are out there on this planet that shouldn't have to happen, but with kind of the ice caps melting and global warming and all those sort of things, what shouldn't be possible perhaps now is. So we're hoping to achieve that this time next year.
Well, that's crazy. We'll definitely have to get an update on that as you progress down that journey. So you've been doing it for a long time. How do you like training in your garage?
I love it. And I miss it while I've been here. It's always been that space when you are, because I work from home a lot. When I'm not on the road, I typically work from home. So I need that escape. I need that to sort of get my day going and kind of help manage stress. So not having access to it, it's been tough while I've been here. And now that my kids are getting older as well, so my son just started high school last week, getting them now involved and working out downstairs, whether it's with me or just for school while they're remote learning, is kind of that next sort of transition. I'm hoping to pass that discipline and bug on to my kids.
That's huge. Yeah, that's something I aspire to as well. Now, this would be an interesting question. What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
This is the one that I've sort of struggled with, because I've not done a lot of the Meet Yourself Saturday workouts where you would think that that's where you're going to have those kind of answers to those questions. Easy cop-out answer is rowing the Atlantic, but that, again, it's not necessarily a workout. I would say it's the workouts that I haven't properly prepared for, whether that's physically or mentally, or thought that I'm still 25 and in the peak of my physical conditioning. A couple of months ago, a few friends invited me out on a ruck, and I thought, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. And we got up to about 17 miles, but I was carrying about 40 pounds in the pack, and it was hot, it was humid, and it was tough. Towards the end, I'd run out of water, and those last few miles were a struggle. And it was back down to that lack of preparation. And it was a case of, again, mentally having to drag myself through it rather than being physically ready for it.
17-mile ruck, that'll do it to just about anybody. Yeah. With 40 pounds especially, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome that you're just getting after it with it, every challenge you can find.
Yeah, and I think that's my problem. I've got to remind myself I'm now only a few months away from turning 50, and I still think of myself physically as perhaps a 30-year-old. And I think the garage gym programming has helped, certainly with the mobility side of things. I've not been great in terms of flexibility and mobility, even in my prime. So that's helped tremendously. And the variety, I must admit that when you do sort of train by yourself, whether it's in the basement or garage or whatever, you tend to favor the things that you're good at or strong at, and shy away from those that you're not. But having the programming, what I like is that there's no guesswork. I just come in, I open up the app and realize, right, there we go. And certainly once you've gone through the warm up kind of block zero, you're ready to go. And I do get a lot more out of it now that I'm an older athlete.
That's awesome. Yeah. After planning it all, I enjoy the same thing, just like, I don't like having to think about what I'm going to do when I walk in the garage. I just like to have it, 100% ready to go. And then all I can focus on is putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
I think it's a case of putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, but doing so safely. I think we never really know our limits unless you start to really push them. Okay, I went through kind of Royal Marines training, and then I went on to join Special Forces. And you're tested at every stage throughout that, because they're looking for that mental toughness. It's not about being the fittest or the strongest. It's being able to get through those moments where you think that you can't make it. So I've always looked for that in my training. I've always tried to push myself. More often than not, that's when I do kind of find myself toying with injury or getting a muscle tweak here and there. But it doesn't have to be physical. Just putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable, and then maybe stepping back and reflecting on them. And I think I encountered that on numerous occasions when rowing across the Atlantic. There were situations where individually I thought I was pretty well prepared, whether it was equipment failure, exhaustion, heat, the sea, that sort of stuff. But when they started to stack up on each other, it overloaded your sort of stress and your comfort levels. And there were occasions where you thought, am I going to be able to get to the other side? And I had to learn to sort of step back and reframe the problem and realize, okay, it's not that bad. We can get through this. And use all of my experience in the past to figure out the next best thing often. I think some people suffer when they have that self-induced pressure rather than kind of physical pressure or anything else. It's what goes on in our own minds. And often that can be very defeating. So learning to sort of step back, reframe. Dealing with the same problems, the sea's still in the wrong direction, I'm still exhausted, I still haven't slept more than a couple of hours, yet just reframing things helps process that. So it's taken me nearly 50 years to get to this point in developing that mental toughness. But if you can put yourself in those positions in a controlled fashion, you could probably get to the same place quicker.
So I do have a follow-up question to that reframing process. I find that, I think that's a really great skill or trait to have. But I'd like to know a little bit more about, how do you reframe that position? Is it a matter of, gratitude? Because I could see that being a great way to reframe, like, hey, thankful for, you could get it into an at least I'm not dead type thing, or you could reframe it in a number of other ways. Is there a particular way that you normally attack that?
There's no silver bullet solution for all situations. It's often almost, whether it's physically or mentally, just stepping back, slowing down, and really sort of seeing, well, what is the problem and how can it be resolved or worked around without kind of what your initial knee-jerk response may be.
Right.
Like I say, it's, do I push harder? Do I lift heavier? Do I again, there's different situations will require different solutions. But I've always found that time, whether that's an extra couple of minutes or an extra couple of hours, will give you that opportunity to sort of step back and reflect on whatever it may be. And like I said, some things you can literally take a couple of deep breaths, step back and think, okay, I'll do it this way, versus, okay, I can't solve this. I had a lot of problems on my boat with an auto tiller that would keep me pointed in the right direction. And it would be literally in 4 or 5 pieces in my lap. And I'm staring at it. I couldn't figure out what was wrong and how to fix it. So I would put it to one side, slept an hour, which obviously helped recharge things to some extent. And then it was a quick and easy fix. So time is always a good way to reframe things.
I like that. All right. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would have to say it's got to be a kettlebell. I came here, and a real kettlebell. I came here, and I do travel quite often with a sandbag kettlebell, because with a sandbag and with a handle on, you can do a fair amount of work. But I felt that it wasn't good enough. So I actually found a kettlebell here on kind of a marketplace off one of the social media apps, and kind of got that dropped off at the hotel. So that's been the only thing that's kept me going, should we say. A small 35-pound kettlebell with bands, so you can add that extra resistance and variety, and just a lifting platform. So yeah, I've fallen in love with the kettlebell all over again since being here.
So I'm changing it up. I'm going to thinking practically. If you could have a piece of equipment dropped off to your hotel room, what would you want?
I would say like a true form runner or an air runner, because we are on a closed set, so we have no opportunity to leave the building. And we're actually in a small boutique type hotel here. So other than walking up a couple of flights of stairs and across the ground floor to go up the other set of stairs, there's not a lot of ground covered. And my working schedule here, because I'm always on call, I can't get to the gym, and we've got a very, very small gym here. So the chance to walk, to run is non-existent. So I've got, like I said, a few bands and the kettlebell in my room, and I'll do 2 or 3 sort of micro workouts throughout the day, mainly to sort of give me a break from the laptop and just get myself moving. So that's that. If I could have something delivered here to the room, I've got some space the other side of the bed, that would be it.
That's awesome.
I'm not sure how we'd get it up into the room, but yeah,
hey, it's the delivery person's fault or problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I need it over there. You guys figure it out. I'll be back.
We'd have to get it sanitized on the way in as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there are a lot of garage gym athletes out there listening to this right now. What would your best advice for them be?
Have a goal. I've always found if I've not had a goal or an objective, more than just I want to look good, because obviously I'm close to 50 now, and that's less of a concern. But having a goal helps you stay motivated in whatever training you're doing. And I've always found that if I've not had a clear goal, that it's too easy to fall off the wagon when it comes to training, or come up with another excuse. So having a goal, and I would say a medium to long-term goal, which can change. Obviously, I've changed my goals several times throughout my last 20, 30 years or so, from joining the Marines to joining SF to rowing the Atlantic. I've changed my training to meet those goals. And now, like I said, it's more about longevity, staying mobile, staying fit, so I can enjoy time with the kids, and then hopefully grandkids, and get them involved in the same kind of lifestyle of staying fit and motivated.
I like that. Well, Tim, I really do appreciate your time and for coming on. I think it's really awesome for us to connect, with this gap in between. And I would love to have you on again after you get down this new journey that you're looking to tackle next year. So I appreciate you being a Garage Gym Athlete and for spending some time with us today, man. Thank you.
No, thank you. And again, thanks you and all the other coaches. I must admit, it's Garage Gym Athlete is the only way forward, in my opinion.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.